Hi, and welcome to Terry Talks Movies, and welcome to Science Fiction Saturday. And I'm recording this egregiously early in the morning, so if I start falling asleep in front of the camera, bear with me. This time around, we're doing one movie, just itchy movie, and that movie is one I've got a few requests for over the years of doing this channel, and it's a banger. It may be Hammer's best science fiction movie, if you leave aside Joseph Losey's The Damned, and it is Nigel Kneale's Quatermass and the Pit. Hey, look, a focus. Quatermass and the Pit is probably, arguably, the peak of Nigel Kneale's career. It started out as a 6-part television series made by the BBC in 1958-1959. It was released. Half-hour episodes, which would be annoying to me. I've actually watched Quatermass and the Pit on the TV version, and it's annoying how quickly the credits come up every time it's on. But the TV version was a banger. It worked. It did a lot with a little. In that version, Quatermass was played by Andre Morell, and Andre Morell is arguably the best actor at playing Quatermass there ever was. Andrew Keir, who plays him in the movie, is great. Got no arguments with that. But I just kind of like Andre Morell, an actor I liked a lot anyway. He was in Cash on Demand, for instance, for Hammer, a little Christmas-themed crime movie they made at around the same time. Interesting actor. He was also in Plague of the Zombies. Interesting actor, great actor, got no notes. So 8 years later, Hammer decides to make Quatermass and the Pit as a feature film. And the production values are fantastic. The acting's fantastic. The script really works. And this is one of those Nigel Kneale scripts, which does what Kneale does best, combining folklore, horror, and science fiction. It's something that he did again with Stone Tape. But this version of Quatermass and the Pit really works. Now, the movie, by the way, was directed by Roy Ward Baker, who did a lot of interesting works. Now, let's through the cast first, because I think they should be noted. So the cast. James Donald playing Dr. Roney, an archaeologist who's working with an assistant, Barbara Judd, played by Barbara Shelley, who's really good in this one as well. We have, of course, Professor Bernard Quatermass, played by Andrew Keir, Scottish actor. I really can't fault his interpretation of Quatermass. I like Andre Morell's better, but I think Andrew Keir is a very, very close second. You have Julian Glover playing Colonel Breen, a military guy of, let's say, narrow intelligence. I'm not saying he's got low intelligence, but he has a very narrow, focused intelligence. We get familiar faces like Sheila Steeple coming up. Grant Taylor, who plays the copper who goes into the abandoned house. Grant Taylor's an Australian actor, so at least we get a little bit of representation there. We get Duncan Lamont playing the guy with the drill, Brian Marshall playing Captain Potter, and Brian Marshall later went on to work and live in Australia. So the movie starts with workers building an extension to the London Underground at Hobs End, and they're tunnelling through clay, and they dig up a skull. So Roney, a paleontologist, identifies the skull as a 5 million year old ape man, which is way more ancient than any previously found. We know from our current knowledge of paleontology that human beings at the time were small apes living in Africa. But to find a weirdly distorted ape-man skull in London was mind-blowing. The workers then find a large metallic object nearby, and that object is not magnetic. It actually has a weird effect on human beings, that if they touch it, they get something a bit like frostbite, but it's not cold. So it's got a weird physical property about it. Meanwhile, Quatermass and the British rocket group are planning colonization of the moon, and he finds out that his project's being taken over by the military because they're the fucking military. And he's not pleased by that. And the guy taking it over is Colonel Breen, and then Breen gets seconded to this thing at Hobs End because they're experienced with bomb disposal. And people think it's a bomb. It's not. It's worse than a bomb. Quatermass follows him over to the project and starts noticing things. They find another ape-man skull inside this weird object, which means the object itself must be 5 million years old. So they start finding out that the area around Hobs End Station is a weird liminal zone. People don't like living there, and there have been historically, all through recorded history, supernatural occurrences, people seeing weird dwarfish figures and monsters. And so most of the houses very close to the station are abandoned. Nobody wants to live there. There are freakish occurrences happening there. And of course, as the movie plays out, we find that there are good reasons why people are going a bit gaga around Hobs End Station. Then things accelerate as human beings start messing around with this thing, which is a spaceship. It seems to be gaining energy from that. My man hallucinates seeing some things while he's working on the spaceship. And inside the chamber, they know there's another chamber there. And inside that, they start finding a weird symbol on the metal or non-metal surface. They get a borazon drill and try to drill it, and nothing happens. But then there is a hole that appears in that partition. And that cracks open, and they find a whole bunch of insectoid aliens with horns, 3 legs, and they rapidly decay when they're exposed to the atmosphere. And that part is icky. They start dragging out these alien corpses, and they're rotting very, very rapidly. And green ichor is oozing out of them. And you can tell everybody hates the smell. It's described as being like rotting fish as they try to get these things out of this spaceship. But what they don't know is the spaceship itself is a computer, and it has certain instructions. And as more energy is put into the area around the spaceship and directly applied to it, there are things like blowtorches. They try to burn it and they won't burn it. It's a very, very strong material. As Roni, Judd, and Quatermass start discovering things, they find out that the spaceship came from Mars, and the Martians have taken pre-human creatures to Mars, changed them to make them slaves, and were bringing them back to Earth when the spaceship crashed in London, what will be London. Suddenly, certain people are manifesting uncontrollable psychic forces, telepathy, telekinesis. Things in the tunnel digging start moving around. It becomes an existential threat to the human race. This is a high concept movie for Hammer. It was made on a budget of £275,000, which is pretty good. But I think there's a lot of bang for your buck there as well, where an American movie would have cost $1 million to make at the time. This one does a lot with less. The sets for the diggings in the Hobs Lane are really good. They feel like a real tube station. And for the most part, the movie does stick itself to the area just outside Hobs End Station and in the tunnel. So in a sense, it feels a little bit claustrophobic as well until we get a near apocalyptic ending and a resolution to the problem. It does stick to maybe 3 or 4 locations. There's some offices in Whitehall. There's above the surface at Hobs End, and there's in the tunnel at Hobs End, and there's an abandoned building nearby. So there's really not many locations in this, but it gives us a cosmic perspective in a very interesting way. And some machinery that Quatermass's people and Roni's people are working on are combined to enable us to see the ancestral memory that's being tapped by this machine. And special effects on it are pretty good for the time. And the rudimentary nature of the equipment they're using excuses those special effects. But I think it's a very effective little moment when they record what went on in Mars and record the memory from the spaceship of a purge of Martians where they're trying to keep the race pure. There's a little bit of a Nazi analogy there. And it's evoked well enough that it sells the story, and it sells the fact that these Martians are all about racial purity. And with their pre-human creatures of which we are the descendants. There were regular purges to get rid of anybody who didn't manifest the psychic powers that the Martians wanted in their slaves. The Nazi thing comes in again when Breen and the Mandarins in Whitehall decide that what this thing is not an alien spaceship, but a Nazi propaganda weapon that crashed into Hobs End. And it was there just to mess things up. So they created aliens and decided to throw it at London as a propaganda thing just to muddy the waters during the war. And then it was never used again. And there are no records of it. There are extreme lengths people will go to deny reality when it doesn't suit their mental template. And that's shown very, very graphically in this movie. And Colonel Breen is resistant to reality, resistant to evidence in a way that's not entirely unfamiliar to a modern audience. Barbara Shelley's very good as Barbara Judd. She's a good assistant. She's not just there as a screen queen, which I appreciate. And her and Quatermass seem to have a little bit of a rapport going there, which is kind of nice. Andrew Keir and Barbara Shelley have a nice chemistry on screen together. They play off each other well, and that strengthens the narrative. James Doyle doesn't have to go very far out of his comfort zone as an actor to play Roni, but his Roni is passionate about what he does. And in a sense, he is the paleontologist equivalent of Quatermass. He's got that focus on the job. There's a really nice scene with the Mandarins in Whitehall and Quatermass, where Colonel Breen's talking about his career. And Quatermass says, I never had a career, I just had a job. So he's not a climber in the organization. He sees his ideas to colonize the moon and to build rockets and travel through space as a job, in the same way a working class person sees working at a coal mine as a job. And Andrew Keir is the son of a coal miner. So there's really interesting character beats that are just slipped into the dialogue in a way that's very organic. I love the production design in this movie. The sets of the underground train station are really good. They must have used tons and tons of clay to make this film. And the spaceship has got an interesting design. It doesn't look terrestrial. It looks off and weird. In a sense, the alien they see isn't the creatures they take out of the spaceship or the skulls they find, or the skeletons they find too. So they do find an almost intact skeleton of this pre-human creature. It's a spaceship. The spaceship is malevolent and triggers the latent abilities in a lot of the people around. And we get these scenes as things escalate of a wild hunt, of a purge of human beings who don't have this latent telekinesis and telepathy. And hordes of people become a mindless creature hunting down those who are not the same as itself. Crazily good movie. Again, it's got that Nigel Kneale thing of rolling legends and folklore into a scientific framework. It's an incredible skill he had to do that, and it is something that taps deeply into the mind when it comes to horror. At the conclusion of the last episode of the TV short series, Quatermass says every war, crisis, witch hunt, race riot, and purge is a reminder and a warning. We are the Martians. If we cannot control the inheritors within us, this will be their second dead planet, which is mind-blowing for 1950s science fiction. America wasn't doing stuff like this in their television at the time. England did with the BBC version of Quatermass. And it's a little bit like that quote from Pogo, the cartoon strip, where one of the characters says, "We have seen the enemy and he is us." That's something we should always remind ourselves in any kind of conflict. Like when you have a human enemy, you are the enemy. We are all the same species. We all have the same aspirations for ourselves and our children and our families and our cultures. And in Nigel Kneale's Quatermass world, that's an inheritance we have from having our genes messed with by three-legged insectoid Martians. Fantastic movie. If you can find the original 6-episode series from the 1950s, it's worth checking out as well. You will fast forward through the credits, which pop up every half an hour. But it's worth checking out, and you can do a compare and contrast with the two. But I think the movie distills the essence of the series really well. And by the time they made the movie, Andre Morel was just a little bit too old to play Quatermass. But Andrew Keir is a really satisfying Quatermass. Of the cinematic Quatermasses, he's my favorite. He's a fine cinematic Quatermass, and much, much better than Brian Donlevy ever was. So that's what I got for you this time. Just one movie, but a real banger and equal first in Hammer's science fiction movies, along with Joseph Losey's The Damned, which I think I'll cover next week. Yeah, I'll do that. I will watch and review Joseph Losey's The Damned, which is equal to Quatermass in the Pit in Hammer's science fiction output. So thanks a lot for watching, and thanks a lot for putting up with the fact that I'm recording this crazily early in the morning. Let me know what you think of Quatermass in the Pit, whether it scared you as a kid, whether it delighted you as an adult, and whether you had a crush on Barbara Shelley like I did. Thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can also support the channel in various ways. First off, by leaving a comment. Comments really hit, and it's good to have that little bit of to and fro, and sometimes disagreement in the comments. You can also support the channel by becoming a channel member, by becoming a patron at patreon.com/TerryTalksMovies, or by donating through YouTube. Next up, we've got the live stream on Monday morning. Looking forward to that. Live streams are an adrenaline kick for this channel. It's really good to be able to interact with people and talk about things. I'm going to do a bit of a haul during that because I've got a few movies that I've picked up that were sent to me by Imprinter Umbrella. And we always have fun. If you donate on a live stream, you get the fart gun, which is always fun. And until then, watch some good movies, watch some bad movies. Just remember that we are the Martians, and I'll catch you next time.